Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we are taking a look at the February releases, amongst which the primary one is the legendary Avalon Sky Fortress coming into Dystopian Wars. Now this month is actually quite jam-packed. It's more than just the Avalon set. In fact, taking a look at this, there are 8 boxes coming to Dystopian Wars, and some of the MDF kits are now also available as separate ones. So picking one out to be your main release, I imagine was a difficult job for this blog post. This month sees a very healthy mix of new resin ships and new plastics coming into the game, so yeah, strap in, we're going for a long ride. Now let's first start off with a quick overview. We've got 8 new boxes coming this month, and it's a very healthy mix of different factions, so yeah, there's a few factions that have been without releases for a long time that are seeing some new ones. Also, something that I didn't expect, they are releasing one-player starter sets for the 4 factions that are represented in the 2-player starter sets, like Hunt for the Prometheus and Sturginium Skies. That is a very good thing for those people looking to start with the game, especially if there's already a bit of an established scene in your friendly local gaming store, because you no longer have to go on the hunt for somebody to share a 2-player starter set with. You can just jump in with one of these 1-player starter sets, which is a big deal. Also, if you're one of those people eyeing up the game and wanting to get in, make sure you hit the thumbs up if you liked the video or if it was just useful to you, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for any future updates as well about Dystopian Wars. And while this has nothing to do with the new releases as well, they also just dropped the new Orbat for the Alliance, and that is actually a pretty significant amount of changes in that one, so expect a video about the Orbat deep dive for the Alliance coming up soon. So again, make sure to subscribe if you are looking forward to that as well. My own personal favourite, the one that I'm looking forward to the most, is coming out next month, so I'm very excited about this one. It is the Avalon Sky Fortress for the Crown. The Avalon, of course, is the big central ship, which looks like it is made out of resin, so I'm quite curious to see how it's going to be hollowed out. I'll make sure to be able to tell you guys once I get my hand on these, because yeah, I'm getting this set, no questions there. And what is in this box, except for the big resin Avalon Sky Fortress? You have 2 of the new rotor force sprues, which we saw in Sturginium Skies being included in this one, giving you a healthy amount of smaller flyers to back up your big Sky Fortress. And it looks like there are 2 of the supports sprues for the Crown included as well. So these actually gel quite nicely with what is already in the boxer, the Sturginium Skies, if you ask me. And I believe you also get some of these support squadron sprues if you buy the Beyond Sturginium Skies box. So yeah, you can definitely make a full squadron out of these support squadrons as well. So yeah, good deal, good deal. This seems to be one of those medium-sized boxes, although I'm not quite sure how big this one is going to be. It might be the extra large box. We'll see when we get our hands on that one. And yeah, if you're looking at the detail shots, this is why I absolutely love it, and I want it straight away. I mean, they did make a bit of a weird thing by pointing the rockets towards each other, it seems. There's always a bit of debate on what the front and the back of it is. I personally interpret it as these tiny little holes being the actual rocket warheads being included, and the rest of it just being some long tubing, but hey-oh, not a big deal. I really love how you've got a lot of negative space in here and how this is just suspended up there. I absolutely love how true this is to the artwork that we saw earlier, which made me anticipate this release so much. And in case you didn't know, in these boxes you're getting the full sprue, so you can build whichever version you want out of the cruisers that are in there. That is the brilliant system that they have for Dystopian Wars. One sprue builds multiple things, and so you can expect to add any of these ships into your fleet as well, because they include some of the parts that are needed on that Avalon Sky Fortress. It's a bit of a mix of resin and plastic, so these are all the things that you get in all of them. Beautiful bit of paintwork as well, again by Daz, as always. Next up, we have a completely new release with the Columbia set. This is one that can actually be used by both Union players and Alliance players because, well, these are the Civil War era ships used by both the Union and the Confederates when they were still at war, and yeah, the Union can still use some of them because they have them in their fleet still, but the SUSA, the Socialist Union of South America, are actually the Confederates that fled the scene and fled southwards, and they are now allied with the French and the Italians, so the Latin Alliance, and so they also get access to these Civil War era ships. I also don't know how intentional it was, but these ships really do take me back to the old Spartan ships when you look at their design, so them being an older design might be a bit of a tongue-in-cheek or a slight wink towards those Spartan days. And you do get a few build options out of these resin ships as well. As you can see, mostly resin using plastic parts. The plastics that have been used on this Columbia ship are from the Alliance, if I'm not mistaken, but you can easily swap them out as well for the ones found on the Union sprues. They also seem to have these very cool little landing pads with these Talos gyros on top of them to launch long-range boarding actions, assaults in other words, against your opponent. And yeah, as you can see, you can swap them out to have the Union ships, the Union weapons on there, and that will be the main visual difference, the identifier, whether or not you're using your ship as an Alliance or as a Union fleet. I expect the plastic sprues will actually include both of these factions' visual weapons. Again, in this game they behave identical rules-wise, but the visuals are just slightly different. The main plastic sprues in this set seem to be yeah, completely new as well, and they've got quite a few nice little build options. You've got the Gettysburg class option for a cruiser, which comes with 2 Gatling guns, one aimed to the aft and the sides and one aimed to the front and the sides, along with a heavy gun battery as well, which I believe you can swap in the current Orbat for a bigger version of the Gatling gun, and I'm very much wondering if that one is represented on that sprue. I think it will be, however I don't think any of the preview pictures that were used in the blog posts were actually using these weapons as well. You can get a mixture as well, replacing the rear Gatling gun with that assault ship that I mentioned to launch these types of assault. And then one of the coolest build options in my opinion is the ones with these assault barges at the front, which can either be used for a Providence class option. The Providence class, if I'm not mistaken, is more of a logistical option, giving you access to some extra card play if you're playing the Union. But you can also create the Sumter class option, which is actually a landing vessels deploying ground troops on landing pads once that gameplay is unlocked, because it's not currently in the game yet, but you know, a bit of future-proofing that way. And yeah, this is definitely a jam-packed sprue, because if I'm not mistaken there were 2 of these Springfield class corvettes represented on each of them, and they are some very good defensive corvettes to escort your cruisers, and we actually see the generic escort tokens for the Union, and also usable perfectly well for any of the Alliance ships as well. Cute little things. And we also see these special Talos SRS tokens. These function more, like I said, as long-range assaults in the game, so they are included on these plastic sprues as well. Next up, the Commonwealth is getting some more love, because they are getting a new Mass 3, I believe it ended up being, resin ships in there, which is the Rikter depicted here, and this box set doesn't include just a new resin part, it also includes the, well, I assume the name will be Advanced Squadrons for the Commonwealth as well, including these flying airships and these skimming hovercrafts, along with escorts tokens as well. You do also get access to 2 of the frontline sprues as well in this one, and there's a nice little catch on with these. They have been updated, so there's been a bit of retooling going on at Warcradle, and these are now upgraded with improved visuals but also improved functionality, more on which later. Let's first start off though with the 3 build options that you can make out of the resin ship. The first one is the Rikter class dreadnought with the aptly named Apocalypse cannon. If you are a big fan of long-range artillery on your open seas, yeah, look no further than this one. It seems to me like it's mostly connected to the hull at this point, and then this part can be replaced as well, because apart from this Rikter class dreadnought, you also have a sort of a command ship in the Presidium class ship, which personally I was amazed by. I really just love the architectural sort of dome that you get on this one. It offers command rerolls for your fleet at the expense of some offensive firepower, because yeah, it trades it in for a shield generator as well. And then you have the final build, which is sort of the dreadnought of the you know, it's not the same as a Borodino, but it's a step up from that one. You get the same very good 3 guns pointing forward loadout, along with rocket batteries at the sides, which, if I'm not mistaken, can also be upgraded to gun batteries for some extra oomph in there as well. And this Rikter set, like I said, also comes with plastics, and these are the frontline ones. And you can actually tell a bit on the blog that the coloration is slightly different. The Kutsov is the one with the traditional heavy gun batteries. That one doesn't appear to be changed all that much, but this one definitely is. This is the Norelisk class option. Now, for those of you who didn't know, the first generation of these frontline sprues had a mortar here at the front, which was molded onto the actual deck, and it looked slightly weird because of the way plastic works. You had these barrels sort of being fused together with the deck, and yeah, that wasn't received all that well. I made the simple effort of clipping that away a bit, but I can see why some people were hesitant to do so, because you're taking a hobby knife to plastic, and if you make one little slip, you're just slicing it off. So this is a lot better. It is now completely interchangeable, and that helps for not only the Norelisk class, that also helps for, if I'm not mistaken, the Sinews, and even the Rurik one gets that extra option. One small thing though, in the render, I think they forgot to include the front shield bit on that one, but hey ho, small mistakes like that can happen. This little picture here is taken from their business-to-business website, their trade site, and yeah, it shows an updated version of the Rurik on this one as well. And there's even better news when we're talking about the next release, because the Rurik has been upgraded to have the front weapon interchangeable, but you can also swap out that central little dome here, and that is going to be, according to the Discord, ultra compatible with the new plastic advanced sprues coming up as well. And what do I mean by that? I'm slightly jumping forward in the presentation along the blog post, but I'm taking a look at these hovercrafts. This one is the Guyana class hovercraft, which has this sort of top dome part that has the sonic wave generator that you can use on that one, but it has a few other build options as well, like for instance this Zuber class hovercraft, which comes with a rocket battery included in the little turret, and has 2 separate rocket batteries on there as well. And this is the little dome part that I'm talking about, that was apparently 100% compatible with the Rurik, allowing you to retool your Ruriks, if you will, into some of the boyars that were previously only found in their marina set. And if those colossi are not exactly your cup of tea, these products are also interchangeable, that you don't even have to get them if you had your eyes set on some of these different destroyer types. And if I'm not mistaken, there was also an option to include that shockwave generator onto a Rurik platform to create a shockwave ship as well. So quite a few new entries in the Orbat can now be explained with this new plastic set. The hovercrafts are, however, not the only thing on there. These are the funkier ones, actually. It's the flying ships, and it comes with one which is the Irkutsk class Sky Cutter, which is an enormously flying boar that can just ram your opponent and absolutely ruin its day. It's a bit of a Marmite design, I suppose. Some people looking at it going like, no, that's entirely too big a drill, and some just absolutely love it. I fall in that second category. I love the madness of it. Now, it's not the only build, though. There is a slightly more mellow one for those looking for that. The first one is the Tunguska class Sky Cutter, which is, if you want to put it simply, a flying Kutsov variant. So if you want a Kutsov that can actually fly over things and has that range band advantage, look no further. In the rules, though, currently it doesn't have a broadside capability, which I think is weird, because I'm looking at the model and going like, oh, what are these things? And I thought those were the broadsides, even though the Orbat doesn't have them listed. But we'll see how that evolves. The second, well, I should say the third variant that you make out of the flyers is this one, which is the Saransk class, which has some Katyusha rocket batteries, along with, I think these are like furnaces that can shoot fire out of them. They shoot that in the aft as well by flying over your opponent's ships. Mind you, it doesn't look in the Orbat like these are the fastest flying ships, but yeah, they do look really, really cool, but they might not be the most, fastest thing in a straight line race. And finally, the last thing on that advanced spruce for the Commonwealth are the escort tokens, which can be used by any nation, of course, not just the Russians, found within the Commonwealth. And I think they're really, really cute, these small little hovercrafts. So, yep, expect those in that sprue as well. The fourth release goes to the Sultanate. They're getting a Topkapi build. Technically, you could have built this one before by combining bits from the frontline sprue, which was that central connecting one, only found on the frontline sprues, and then the sort of launchers, the carriers from the support sprue. These have now been made in resin, though, so you can actually couple them together in one battle fleet if you want, so you don't necessarily have to buy the other one. But the major addition, of course, in this one are the different portals that come onto the scene now. If I'm not mistaken, you don't even have to glue these down onto a base, which would have my preference. I would just keep them off there and just put them on the battlefield as is. Most people tend to play on a mat anyway, so that's just going to stand up just fine on its own. Also, these are indeed clear resin as depicted here, so you can paint them up really, really cool if you've got some clear paints from Tamiya. Those work a charm with these portals. And yep, as you can see from the blog post, this battle fleet essentially allows you to build either the new Topkapi class battleship, which is one that can instantly launch its SRS via portals, which is why the portals are included in this set, I suppose, but don't let it stop you from building a Nemrut class battleship if you want as well. So if you're not already knee deep into the cruisers for this faction, then yeah, I actually think these are just the step up from the traditional support sprues. I don't know how expensive they are in terms of what the MSRP was going to be, but with it now having the portals included as well, this kind of seems like a no-brainer to get more of those. And then lastly, we have the one-player starter sets. Now, the blog doesn't show the whole picture, which is one reason why I'm making these videos as well, because these sets include updated frontline squadrons. So again, if you like these little additions to it and you want this the full pack with it as well, make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, because we're jumping over to the business client again and seeing that there's actually been quite a few changes in the plastic sets included in this Crown starter set. This is the new Lancelot class sprue. Now, the Lancelot, for those who didn't know before, had one of those guns, again, that were sort of molded onto the deck as well. And that looked a bit weird because you didn't actually get a clean barrel here, but rather something that was sort of stuck to the deck as well, and that you had to cut out to make it look nice. And that's no longer the case. It's been cut out. It looks like it's now a new sprue thing. I don't know how they did it with the retooling. I'm not that technically versed in how these sprues are made, but somebody on the Discord did mention that it's actually possible to add material again to fill things out, or to just, you know, cut out a few new bits every now and then if you've got the space for it, and that appears to have happened with this Lancelot. And it's not just the Lancelot that got this treatment. The Caliburn class, the small frigate, also now has an interchangeable gun battery at the front, and when that Alliance deep dive is coming up, I expect stonks to increase on these as well, because there are some fun changes in that one as well regarding gun batteries. In a similar vein to the Crown one, the ones from the Imperium are also updated, and it looks like it's not just the frontline sprue that got updated, it's also the support sprues that got updated. Now you have to remember, some of these sprues aren't even 2 years old, and they're still getting updated as time goes along. I think that's really commendable. That Warcradle Studios really does want to give you the best product that they can deliver, even if that means sort of adjusting things that they did prior that they perhaps were not quite as happy with themselves. It's not depicted on the blog, but this is now the new Elector class option for the battleship, and it looks like you can actually make a completely new build using what was previously the Gustav version. There is now a single barreled one. I know that some people gave the feedback that one of the very earliest prototypes of the Elector class actually had a single barreled Gustav on there, and a lot of people mentioned that they really liked that design, and it seems that they listened to that and actually upgraded it in such a way that you can build the Augustus, the Bombard, the Gustav found on the Augustus in multiple ways. Clicking a bit further to the actual Augustus, you can see that that one is still there though. There's still the two-barreled version, should you like that one more. It's just replaced with an even heftier one on the Elector class as well. And looking at the actual hull itself, there's been quite a few additions to it. In the first generation, I'm actually quite familiar with these because I painted up over 16 of them by now. In the first iteration of these, this was all a blank area. They've actually cut in a few extra decking stripes as well, which gives more detail to the ship. And speaking of more detail, it looks like they've included a whole lot of these extra rivets as well along the armor plates to make them stand out a bit more. Now, I don't think it is something that is completely going to change the look of your force, but I do like these new additions, and I do want to get a few of these new ones, even though I already have 16 of them, just to create some ships that will look visually different. Because if you're painting that deck in a sort of wooden brown color, that really is going to set them apart quite a bit compared to the first generation, but not enough that it looks like they don't belong together at all. I'm really liking this. If we're looking at the Arminius class frigate, it now looks like this thing can rotate the front gun on there as well. It couldn't before, it was sort of a square peg that always had to slot in the same way, so maybe they've made a few changes so that it doesn't always have to point forwards. And even though it's not depicted on the Arminius class, if we go a bit further and load up the Teuton, it has a similar thing where it can change directions as well, so perhaps that was changed as well. And the most interesting one of the three, which is the Sigimir class option, now shows a tiny rocket battery, a shock rocket battery, as a new option that was just not found at all on any of the sprues as well. So also more changes in terms of weapon options for the Imperium. And then the one that got changed the most by far is the Conrad. luck would have it that I actually uploaded on Discord a conversion that I made based off of Gary Connell's work. He had done a conversion about with the Conrad because apparently quite a few people didn't quite like the ramp that they had going. It was sort of an angle, and it looks fine for takeoff, but how on earth were you supposed to land on these things? And it looks like Warcradle took this to heart and started making one that is now nice and flush, where you can actually imagine a plane being able to land more easily as well. And I really like how they integrated as well, sort of they've got these parts where the broadsides nicely slot into. They've redesigned this new bridge, and I imagine the extra flak, the Vierling autocannon, is an upgrade part that you can potentially have because the first generation Conrad isn't going to have this one. Now, my conversion was incredibly similar to this one, or I should say Gary's conversion was incredibly similar to this one, to the point where Stuart was actually going like, oh, I thought we had a leak there for just a second, and now I understand why he made that remark. It does look incredibly similar to the conversions I was making. The Commonwealth is also getting a new one-player starter set, and it's actually made up of that upgraded frontline sprue and the new advanced sprue. The ones that I've already mentioned are so brilliantly cross-compatible, so I'm not going to go into all of that again. But yeah, this actually is so good that you kind of can still buy this set, even if you bought into the Hunt for the Prometheus, and still get a lot out of it. After all, you can make named variants of your Borodino, the Paktushov, and actually, have a bit of a slightly different paint job to represent it as the Paktushov as well, without you quote-unquote proxying it as a Borodino every single time. And then the final one-player starter set that is released is the new one for the Enlightened, and I also think this is a very smart suggestion to do this, because you now get the Descartes in there. That comes with both the support sprues, which are the ones that have the plastic visitor tokens seen here, and it comes with two of the advanced sprues, which come with the Orca tokens as well. So you can actually have a fully equipped Descartes using this set as well, alongside with some of the Kitos assault machines and everything. This is, for the beginning player, a very SRS and token intensive fleet to start off with, though, depending on what you build with these things, obviously. But as depicted here, this is very much a set for those people leaning into that short-range squadron playstyle, if they prefer it. And there we have it. Quite a long video, but quite a lot to say about these releases after all. So I hope you enjoyed it, hope you liked it, learned something. If you did, click the thumbs up button, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!